Auschwitz in the United States. It's a very interesting book, and it's one that definitely, at some stage, a person should read if they're interested in the ideas of censorship, the ideas of freedom of information and press, and very interesting with their Donald Trump era coming to an opening at the moment. Here's a little bit of a clip from the movie Fahrenheit 451.
Tell me, that number you all wear, what's it mean?
Oh, Fahrenheit 451.
Why 451 rather than 813 or 121?
Fahrenheit 451 is the temperature at which book paper catches fire and starts to burn.
I'd like to ask you something else, only I don't really dare.
Go ahead.
Is it true that a long time ago, firemen used to put out fires and not burn books?
Oh, really, your uncle is right. You are light in the head. Put fires out. Who told you that?
Oh, I don't know, someone. But is it true? Did they?
Oh, what a strange idea. Houses have always been fireproof.
Ours isn't.
Well, then, it should be condemned one of these days. It has to be destroyed, and you will have to move to a house that is fireproof.
Too bad. Tell me, why do you burn books?
What? Well, it's a job like any other. Good work, with lots of variety. Monday we burn Miller, Tuesday Tolstoy, Wednesday Walt Whitman, Friday Faulkner, and Saturday and Sunday Schopenhauer and Sartre. We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
You don't like books, then?
Do you like the rain?
Yes, I adore it.
Books are just so much rubbish. They have no interest.
Then why do some people still read them, although it's so dangerous?
Precisely because it is forbidden.
Why is it forbidden?
Because it made people unhappy.
That was a section from Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, who was number 6 on our top 10 Dystopian Stories here on Cavan Online Radio's Aardvark Agenda today with your host Daniel Downey. And we're just going to go for a wee break, and we'll be back after this with number 5. You're listening to the Aardvark Agenda on Cavan Online Radio with your host, Daniel Downey. Welcome back to the show, folks. You're tuned into the Aardvark Agenda. This is Daniel Downey, and we are going through the top 10 dystopian stories of all time. In at number 10 was The Hunger Games. In at number 9 was City of Bohane. In at number 8 was Children of Men. At 7 we had The Handmaid's Tale. And just there at number 6 we had Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, or The Temperature at which Book Paper Burns. Number 5, we're going for a very interesting tale. It's a very modern one, a very interesting twist. It's called The Wind-Up Girl, and it's defined as a biopunk science fiction dystopia novel. It's the debut novel of Paolo Bacigalupi. I'm just about possibly tried to get that. And it's set in 23rd century Thailand. Global warming has raised the levels of the world's oceans, carbon fuel sources have become depleted, and manual wound springs are used as energy storage devices. Biotechnology is dominant, and mega corporations like Agrigen, PureCal and Red Star, called calorie companies, control food production through gene-hacked seeds and use bioterrorism, private armies and economic hitmen to create markets for their products. Frequent catastrophes such as deadly and widespread plagues and illnesses caused by genetically modified crops and mutant pests ravage entire populations. The natural genetic seed stock of the world's plants has been almost completely supplanted by those that are genetically engineered to be sterile. The current monarch of Thailand is a child queen. The capital city is below sea level and protected by flooding by levees and pumps. And the 3 most powerful men in Thailand are the Somdet Chao Phraya, the regent for the child queen, the chief of the Environment Ministry, General Pracha, and the chief of the Trade Ministry, Akarat. It's a very, very, very interesting story from a very different type of background. but it's one which has modern resonances for us today, particularly with things like the spread of genetic crops, the spread of bioterrorism, and the idea of economic hitmen. It was a very, very interesting idea. This is very much taking some of the more modern or postmodern ideas and setting them into a dystopian future setting. It's an absolutely brilliant idea, but let's hear a little bit from the author about his ideas behind the book and where they came from.
Hi, my name is Paolo Bacigalupi, and I'm the author of The Wind-Up Girl. The roots of this story really come from a trip I took to Southeast Asia in 2003. I traveled through Hong Kong, southern China, Laos, and Thailand, and I was specifically going to gather material. I like to travel because I think that being in foreign places, running into unexpected things, helps me pay better attention to the world around me, and it also helps me pay better attention to my home when I come back. In any case, it turned out that I got a lot more than I bargained for on that particular trip, because at the same time as I was traveling, the SARS epidemic erupted. SARS, or Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, there's a tongue twister, started in Guangdong province, and it rapidly spread to something like 37 odd countries. But its epicenter was Asia, and it killed a lot of people very quickly. So as I was traveling, SARS started as a whisper of odd events happening in Guangzhou, little newspaper reports that maybe people were getting sick, or maybe there was some sort of a flu thing happening, something. And then it suddenly exploded into this pandemic, and it was killing people in Hong Kong. People are dying like flies. People are dying in Vietnam. People are dying in Beijing, in Shanghai, in Bangkok. People are wearing masks everywhere you go. And every time you heard someone cough, you were absolutely certain that that person was a carrier and that they were going to give you SARS and that you were going to die a sweltering, miserable death, coughing up the meat of your lungs in the very near future. I ended up in Bangkok trying to arrange a flight out of the country while more and more of these death reports rolled in. I was staying in an extremely cheap flop house. It was made of concrete. It was something like 6 stories high, and my room had no air conditioning, and it faced west, which meant that the full blaze of the equatorial sun would just hammer my room all afternoon, and it would turn the room into this sweltering oven at night. So I sweated, and I sweated, and I sweated, and I sweated, and when I was done sweating, I sweated some more, and pretty soon it felt like I was nothing but bones and sort of desiccated skin. And the weird thing was that at that point my skin started to develop all these weird pustules. So people are dying like flies, my skin is bubbling, I can't sleep at all because of this relentless heat. Half the people I'm talking to are wearing masks, and the world felt mad. Completely crazy. And for a while, I started feeling like I was losing my mind as well. There's something extremely compelling about being in a spot where all the things you take for granted are suddenly not things you can rely on anymore. That your health doesn't work, that your skin seems to be rebelling against you, that the people around you may or may not be death carriers. So when I got back to the States, those images and those experiences really stayed with me. I didn't know what I wanted to do with those, but they were so interesting that those images, those feelings, all of that hung with me. And so I found myself trying to write more and more stories that somehow touched on that experience and connected to it. It took me quite a while to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach it, but now 6 years later, and I really hope you enjoy The Wind-Up Girl.
That was the author of The Wind-Up Girl, talking about inspirations behind the book. And The Wind-Up Girl is number 5 on our top 10 dystopian stories. In at number 4, we have probably one of the darkest stories ever told, dystopian or otherwise. This particular story is by Cormac McCarthy. It was made into an equally dark movie as well, and it's called The Road. The Road is a post-apocalyptic tale of a father and his young son over the period of several months across a landscape blasted by an unspecific cataclysm that has destroyed most of civilization and in the intervening years almost all life on Earth. It's gruesome. It's set in America after what's called an extinction event. So the land is covered with ash. It's devoid of life. The boy's mother, pregnant with him at the time of the disaster, committed suicide shortly after giving birth to him. And realising they can't survive the winter, the man takes the boy south along empty roads towards the sea, carrying their meagre possessions in their knapsacks and a supermarket cart. The man is suffering from a serious cough. He knows he's dying. He assures his son that there are good guys out there carrying the fire, as they say, and the pair have a revolver with only 2 rounds. The father has taught the boy how to use the gun on himself, if necessary, to avoid falling into the hands of the ever-present cannibals in the background. It's a terrifying story. It's probably one of the bleakest books I've ever read. It's probably one of the bleakest movies I've ever seen, and definitely worth looking into. But here is a little bit from Viggo Mortensen, who starred as the father in The Road.
There's one line, very simple, of McCarthy's that's the frailty of everything revealed at last. And to me, that's really what it's about. Everything's gone. What is beautiful? What is that one little flower that grows in the desert? What is it? It's simple, really. It's kindness. You know, that's what carrying the fire means. You know, this term that's used in the movie. Once you get past the idea, where you accept it, how important it is to survive, if that's what you choose to do. What else is there? Is it just about staying alive another day, finding some food, not being killed or eaten? I mean, is that all there is to it? But when everything leads you to be afraid and hopeless, and to have happen all those things that is inspired by fear, which is to be cruel, to be mistrusting, to be contemptuous of others, really, to be unkind. If you nevertheless choose to be compassionate and loving, in spite of everything that goes against that, then that's quite beautiful. And that's the journey. You know, that's where you get to at the end. It's well earned, that uplifting ending, I think, and that's what I was really moved by. There's something. Can I read you? I'll read you something in the book that I think is quite beautiful. It gives you an idea of what his writing is like, Cormac McCarthy's, and it being a different medium. We can't have all that in the movie. It has to be there in the relationship between the man and the boy. He stood leaning on the gritty concrete rail. Perhaps in the world's destruction, it would be possible at last to see how it was made. Oceans, mountains, the ponderous counter-spectacle of things ceasing to be, the sweeping waste, coldly secular, the silence. You know, that's the setting. And in that setting, if 2 lonely people find a way to understand that having each other and just being alive is everything, it's appreciating what you've got. You know, no matter how bad it looks, no matter how hopeless it is, it's like, you know, that's really the only thing that's real. I mean, all these things that I miss, family members that have died and friends and places I like to be at, the energy I might have had at a certain time in my life that I don't have now, those lines that I was lying in bed and I forgot to write it down, thinking I'd remember it the next day and I don't remember it. You know, that's done. It's over. You can learn from it, but we're here now. Any story that can make you feel that, I think is worthwhile.
Wise, dark and beautiful words there from Viggo Mortensen and from Cormac McCarthy. And that was The Road. And that's number 4 in our top 10 dystopic stories. And in at number 3, we were returning to Margaret Atwood. Margaret Atwood, from before, she was in at number 7 with The Handmaid's Tale. And now she returns with Oryx and Crake. It's Very, very harrowing story. But Margaret Atwood does not describe it as a science fiction story. She describes it as a speculative fiction story, because it's not about things that we can't yet do or begin to do. It's about things that scientifically we can actually do. So it's set in a post-apocalyptic time, of course, and it's about Snowman, a man living near or with a group of human-like creatures called the Quakers. And it's near starvation. Snowman decides to return to the ruins of a compound named Rejuvenescence to search for supplies, even though it's overrun by dangerously genetically engineered hybrid animals. It's an interesting story and basically flows around the story of a few different people. Snowman himself, who's the main protagonist, and he was